In July 2026, only weeks after South Africa reached the knockout stage of a World Cup for the first time, midfielder Jayden Adams died at the age of 25. Authorities opened an inquest, but no official cause was immediately released. His sudden death became the latest chapter in a disturbing history. Footballers who reached the sport's greatest stage, only to have their lives end in shocking and completely distinct circumstances. Some were murdered, others died in road accidents, family violence, hunting incidents, or natural disasters. Their stories span generations and continents, yet they share one haunting truth. The World Cup made their names unforgettable, but fame offered no protection once the final whistle had blown. To understand this darker side of football history, we begin with the case that remains the most infamous of all, a single defensive mistake in 1994 that became permanently connected to the murder of Andrés Escobar. It endures. Colombia entered the 1994 World Cup carrying enormous expectations after a spectacular qualifying campaign. Against the United States, Andrés Escobar stretched to intercept a low cross, but the ball deflected from his foot into his own net. Colombia lost 2-1 and was eliminated. 10 days later, Escobar was confronted outside a Medellín nightclub, mocked over the own goal, and shot repeatedly by Humberto Muoz Castro, a bodyguard connected to men linked with organized crime. The exact motive has remained debated, but the killing occurred in an era when criminal money, illegal betting, and Colombian football were dangerously intertwined. Escobar was only 27. What made the tragedy even more powerful was his response before his death. Rather than blame others, he publicly called for dignity and respect, and the courage to continue. He became remembered not as the man who scored an own goal, but as a symbol of grace in a violent period of football history. Other World Cup players died through accidents that seemed almost impossibly cruel. Italian defender Gaetano Scirea, a 1982 world champion, and one of the finest sweepers of his generation, was working as a Juventus scout when he was killed in a road crash in Poland in 1989. Argentina defender José Luis Cuchufo, a member of the 1986 World Cup winning team, died in 2004 after a firearm discharge during a hunting trip. Congolese international Jason Mayélé was only 26 when he died in a car crash near Verona in 2002 while traveling to the funeral of a teammate's father. None of these men were performing dangerous acts on a football pitch. They were traveling, working, or spending time away from the game. That is what makes their stories unsettling. Their careers had survived pressure, tackles, injuries, and the intensity of elite competition, yet ordinary moments outside the stadium proved fatal. Fame offered no protection beyond the stadium walls. Some cases had almost no connection to football at all. Alberto Galatio, who represented Argentina at the 1934 World Cup, died in 1961 during a violent confrontation inside his family home. Christian Atsu, who played for Ghana at the 2014 tournament, was killed when a devastating earthquake struck southern Turkey in February 2023. His body was recovered from the rubble nearly 2 weeks later. Laurie Cunningham, a pioneering Black England international, died in a car crash near Madrid in 1989. 30 years later, Spanish international José Antonio Reyes was killed when his vehicle left the road and caught fire. These deaths were separated by decades, countries, and circumstances. Football did not directly cause them. Instead, football became the reason millions of people remembered the victims. Their World Cup appearances transformed private human tragedies into permanent chapters of sporting history. Their stories might otherwise have vanished from memory. Jayden Adams now stands within that same painful history. He represented South Africa in all 3 group matches at the 2026 World Cup and helped the country reach the knockout phase for the first time. He played during an emotionally difficult tournament, having lost his grandmother shortly before one of South Africa's matches. Weeks later, he was found dead in Cape Town. Officials confirmed that an investigation was underway and urged the public not to speculate while the cause remained unknown. That distinction matters. When facts are incomplete, tragedy should not become entertainment, rumor, or conspiracy. Adams should be remembered for what is confirmed: a gifted young midfielder, a national team player, and part of a historic South African campaign. His death reminds us that public figures are still private human beings whose families deserve accuracy, restraint, and respect. Responsible storytelling requires respect for all facts that stay unknown. Taken together, these stories reveal something rarely discussed when football celebrates its legends: The World Cup creates a permanent record of a player at the height of national attention, but it cannot protect anyone from violence, accidents, disaster, or personal crisis. Andrés Escobar, Gaetano Scirea, José Luis Cuchufo, Jason Mayélé, Alberto Galatillo, Christian Atsu, Laurie Cunningham, José Antonio Reyes, and Jayden Adams reached the game's greatest stage, then became remembered through tragedies that unfolded far beyond it. Their deaths should never be reduced to sensational headlines. They are reminders of the human lives behind the shirt statistics and historic matches. Which stories stay with you the most? And what do you think football can learn from it? Share your thoughts below. And if you value carefully researched football history, consider subscribing, liking the video, and sharing it with someone who would appreciate the story. Remember,